I'm a big fan of the tiered serving plate. It's an impressive way to serve food at a celebration. This one can be packed flat, and there's a unique extra twist that allows you to use it all year round. I'll use 2 kilos of clay for the stem, 1.2 for the large plate, 800 for the medium plate, and 500 grams for the small plate, plus an extra 250 grams for the top. I start by centering the 2 kilos of clay. If you're not yet quite ready to throw such a tall cylinder, you can divide the clay up into 4 parts. I flatten the top of the clay. And I push down into the clay and open out. I don't need to leave any clay in the base, although sometimes a bit of clay can help support the walls down there. Now I'm ready to start pulling up the clay. And if your cylinder starts to flare out a little, you can bring it back in by gently collaring. Now, I need to leave the top of this cylinder wide enough for my hand to fit. I need to keep my left forearm and wrist wet, otherwise the clay might stick and my cylinder could twist. I compress the rim when I get to the top. So I'm using even pressure here. And now one more pull to get the final height. So now it's about collaring in to close the form. I pull some clay up into a neck and then collar. Until I can gently squeeze and bring the clay together. Now that I've got a closed form, I use my rib to straighten and smooth the sides. Now I measure into quarters. About 8 centimeters for each section. I mark off the sections. At each of the 3 marks, I'm going to make a ledge. The ledge is going to hold a plate. I'm making the ledge about 7 mil. So that's it for the first ledge. So for the second ledge, and the same for the third ledge. I give the ledges a quick tidy and I set aside to dry to leather hard. So onto the plates. I'm going to throw on TYVEK. My bats are a bit worse for wear and they leave bits of coating on the bottom of my pots. I've found that covering my bats with TYVEK gives me a really tidy base. I just stick it down with a bit of slip. And so I take 1.2 kilos of clay and center. Once centered, I flatten the clay and I keep on flattening out to the width of the plate. I want the plate to be about 7 mil thick. And I'm going to form a very short wall. So the plate's a very shallow tray. I make sure I compress the clay really well. And I trim around the base. I don't wire through. The TYVEK will make this plate very easy to release from the bat. Now I move on to the medium plate. It's essentially the same plate, but 5 centimeters less in diameter. So I'm just going to speed through this one. And now for the final plate. I take the 500 grams of clay and I make the same plate again. And this one's 5 centimeters smaller in diameter. Now I've measured the stem at each of the ridges where the plates are going to sit, and I need to cut a hole in each plate that will fit the diameter. I start with the smallest. I use a pin tool and I do this while the clay is still wet. I do this for all 3 plates. Now there's one thing left to do, and that is throw a small cone for the top. So I center 150 grams of clay, I open up all the way, and I bring the clay up into a cone. Once I've got a small cylinder, I collar in, and I just keep narrowing that neck until I can just squeeze the clay together at the top. I straighten the sides with a rib. I trim around the base and set aside to dry. Now, one of the features of this tiered stand is that I can change the top easily. Whereas I might like a star for Christmas, I might want a heart for Valentine's Day. The possibilities here are endless. So I take the shape I've cut out and I attach it to the top of the cone. I've joined this while the clay is still wet, so I'll set aside and smooth as the clay dries a little more. Now I'm ready to trim. And now I flip the plate over and I can peel back the TYVEK. And I check to make sure that my plate fits on the ridge on the stem. So now it's time to trim the middle plate, and it's the same. And then I do the same with the smallest plate, and I smooth down the top cone. I also make sure the inside of the cone is tidy too. I check to make sure it all fits together. And now I can set aside to dry fully before bisquing. And I glaze. I glaze the cone in 2 sections. I'm glazing in my soft duck egg blue glaze. And now I glaze the plates by dipping each into a bath of glaze. While I glaze these plates, remember, hit subscribe if you haven't already done so, and like and comment below. And I don't forget the top cones, a quick dip, and on top of the cutout I brush a bit of Goldine glaze and I glaze fire. It's fired and I'm ready to assemble. This looks like an elaborate project, but the most difficult thing here is that cone. And as I mentioned earlier, you can make that in multiple parts. And the twist? Well, it's not just for Christmas. You can make various top cones and switch them out for Mother's Day, Valentine's Day, any kind of celebration really, making this tiered cake stand really versatile. So from the idea sketched in a notebook to pride of place on the table. For another great Christmas project, why not check out my Christmas tiffin? Thanks for watching and happy potting!